Hello ladies and gents, and welcome to the K Omega Gamer channel. I'm the Omega One himself, the K Omega Gamer, and today we're going to be continuing with the third installment of Smackdown vs. Raw 2008. Now, for those of you that may or may not remember, we had in the first video a World Heavyweight Championship Classic, which is a tournament to determine the World Heavyweight Champion, in which case CM Punk became the World Heavyweight Champion. Then we had a United States Tag Team and Cruiserweight Classic for the championships. And a match of note is on the 26th here in the semifinal of the United States Classic. Johnny Nitro picks up a win over Jeff Hardy. Now, I know you're thinking right now that doesn't really matter any, but it'll come back into play later. Then we had our United States champion Johnny Nitro crowned in the finals of the United States Classic. And in the Tag Team Classic in the finals, we had Johnny Chaos and Hellraiser versus King Booker and Mr. Kennedy, in which case King Booker and Mr. Kennedy took home the Tag Team Championships. And that was in video 2. Also in video 2, the week right before our pay-per-view, Judgment Day, we had the almost accumulation. The very last week with CM Punk picking up a win, Randy Orton picking up a win in that rivalry. Hell-Raised Chaos, as the tag team is called, picking up a win over the tag team champs to build momentum. Then we had United States champion Johnny Nitro picking up a win over now Cruiserweight champion Jeff Hardy, which, I don't know if I should, yeah, right there. Jeff Hardy wins the Cruiserweight Championship in the final against Gregory Helms. So for this match, it was the champion versus champion, and Jeff Hardy comes up short. Then we fast forward to the pay-per-view. Jeff Hardy picks up a championship win, retains in a Cruiserweight 4-man Battle Royal. Then we have Johnny Nitro retaining the United States Championship in an Iron Man match versus Elijah Burke, and I fully expected Elijah to win, I'm not going to lie. Then we had Hell-Raised Chaos getting their first Tag Team Championships ever from King Booker and Mr. Kennedy in a ladder match, Tornado Tag. Then Batista moves on to #1 contendership by beating Randy Orton in a last man standing match. And in the main event, CM Punk retains the World Heavyweight Championship against Kane in Kane's specialty Hell in a Cell match. And I've gone ahead and simmed forward to this Smackdown, so that way you wouldn't have to see me do the little bitty builds that I had to do for a few guys just to keep them relevant. I've gone ahead and created some rivalries as well. Undisputed Champion, Cruiserweight Champion Jeff Hardy versus United States Champion Johnny Nitro. Now, as we've seen just now in the recap, Johnny Nitro has 2 wins on Jeff Hardy. Now, you're thinking, oh, well, you know, it's the first match shouldn't really count towards anything because technically it was a tournament. And then the second match, champion versus champion, yeah, you could draw a legitimate claim from that. But we're playing Johnny Nitro off as the super heel here. So what's going to happen is this Friday night on Smackdown, we're going to rekindle the Tag Team Championship rivalry between Mr. Kennedy and King Booker and Hell-Raised Chaos by including Jeff Hardy and Johnny Nitro in and make it a 6-man tag team match. Now, at the end of the match, regardless of who wins or who loses, Jeff Hardy and his team are going to be, let's use our imaginations here, or kayfabe, because that's what kayfabe is, right? The break of imagination. We're going to kayfabe that after the match, and I will run a rivalry promo for this, so it'll make sense. After the match, Johnny Nitro, King Booker, and Mr. Kennedy, all 3 are heels, they're going to attack Hell-Raised Chaos and Jeff Hardy. And then, later on in the card, we're going to run an interview with Johnny Nitro explaining that if the Cruiserweight Championship had been on the line the SmackDown before Judgment Day, he would be Cruiserweight Champion and not Jeff Hardy. And we're going to run this as a storyline, really kick off that feud there. And because King Booker and Mr. Kennedy aren't getting their tag team title rematches this week, it's going to reamp the feud between these guys and hopefully draw it all the way up into the pay-per-view. And then obviously we have CM Punk, who's the heel in this situation, versus the Animal Batista, as he is the rightful #1 contender going into the pay-per-view. So we're going to be seeing CM Punk versus Batista going into the Great American Bash, which is the next pay-per-view. Now, I only have 3 rivalries right now. There will be more coming, because here in the next couple of shows, there'll be and by shows I mean Smackdowns on this video, some superstars are going to get unlocked. I've already got 3 on the way that are going to lead us into the Great American Bash, and possibly even into SummerSlam. But I think that just these 3 right now would be enough. And I've also made some trades to kind of thin out the roster a little bit to make room for these new superstars that are coming in. And I traded off Mark Henry, William Regal, Chavo Guerrero, and Finlay in return for Raw's Umaga and ECW's Bobby Lashley. And that will be playing into a storyline that's coming in the next couple of weeks, the next couple of episodes of SmackDown. That will play into the #1 contendership for the World Heavyweight Championship, moving on past the Great American Bash. So that ought to be pretty interesting. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and delve right into this first week. I've gone ahead and made up the match card just to go ahead and get us started, get us to this first week real clean and simple. We've got Elijah versus Gregory Helms. I'm fully expecting Elijah Burke to pull out a win coming into this match. Helms is a lower card guy as far as the pop on my roster goes. And then in the second match, like I said, we've got King Booker, Mr. Kennedy, Nitro, Hellraiser, Chaos, and Jeff Hardy in a 6-man tag. Then we've got a rivalry attack on Jeff Hardy and his crew, but because of how the rivalry promos on this game work, Jeff Hardy will be the only one that really gets affected by it. But we'll just kayfabe the storyline just for our own personal sakes. Then we've got Umaga versus Bobby Lashley, both of the guys new to SmackDown, so we're just putting them in a little who's higher on the card starting off kind of match. Leading into the next couple of weeks. And then we've got Kane versus Randy Orton, and this is a potential number 1 contenders bout, so they're trying to gain momentum, trying to gain that next #1 contendership, and that rivalry will be starting in a couple of weeks. And then I've got the interview space for Johnny Nitro, where he explains how he wants to be a Double Crown champion. And little fun fact, there has not been a Double Crown champion, meaning a superstar holding 2 titles at the same time, on SmackDown exclusively since MVP back in, I think it was either 2006 or 2007, where he held the SmackDown Tag Team Championship and the United States Championship at the same time. So Johnny Nitro will be remaking history, or Jeff Hardy, depending on who walks out with both titles. Or if either one of them even walks out with both titles. And then, of course, we've got Batista versus CM Punk in a singles match, just to kind of see who gets the one-up on who starting off. And in the coming weeks, I plan on tweaking this rivalry just a little bit to maybe try to protect CM Punk, but I'll get more into that as it comes. So let's go ahead and confirm this. Simulate all of these. Elijah picks up the win, just as I was hoping he would. That's good. Okay, the heels get the victory over the most faces and one heel. Yeah, because Hellraiser's a heel. And then they attack him, and he does the promo, so that's all good. That's good. Bobby Lashley picks up the win over Umaga. Kane picks up the win over Randy Orton. And CM Punk gets one over on Batista. So we're going to go ahead and fast forward to this Raw right here. Umaga's contract is expiring. Free agency. Edge. I unlocked Edge. He'll get a year. I unlocked John Cena. He'll get 1 year. And I unlocked Rey Mysterio. He'll get a year. And I know what you're thinking when I said the trades earlier, that I traded away Chavo Guerrero and Finley, and that's pretty much like half of my cruiserweight division right there, right? Well, with the integration of the light heavyweight division, I have plenty of cruiserweights, especially now that Rey Mysterio and Edge are both unlocked. Edge is light heavyweight and Rey Mysterio is a cruiserweight, so that'll probably play in later, give us some better cruiserweight championship matches. I mean, hell, Jeff Hardy is our cruiserweight champion right now, right? So, alright, so I'm still going to hold off on creating any more rivalries for right now, because, let's see, next week, or week 3, we're going to start our #1 contenders tournament. So there's really no sense right now in starting some rivalries, because it's going to be random battle pretty much for the next 2 or so weeks to determine a solid 2 guys for a #1 contendership battle. And we're going to see how it plays out. Hopefully it plays out well. Excuse me, I had to get a sip of my drink there. Alright, so we're just going to fast forward straight to this Smackdown right here. Alright, the little story arc of this week will be Umaga. He's up for a contract extension, so we'll say he has to win his match, and if he wins his match, he'll get the full year like everybody else, since he came from Raw, and we believe Raw to be developmentals. And we'll say if he loses, we'll only give him a 5-week contract extension, and he'll have to earn himself in the World Championship Classic, or excuse me, the #1 contenders Battle Royal, or not Battle Royal, I can't get the phrase right, tournament, the #1 contenders tournament, to get his extension. There we go. Okay, spat it out finally. Alright, we'll have another one-on-one versus Batista and CM Punk. We'll run a pay-per-view hype. The first 2 matches will be Elijah Burke versus Randy Orton. And Kane versus... Let's see, who should it be? Yeah, John Cena. We'll do Kane versus John Cena. And then we'll have, in this one, Johnny Nitro and Jeff Hardy. We'll go ahead and get that kick started. And Nitro is 2 up on Jeff. And what I'm going to do is, on week 6, which is about 3 weeks before the pay-per-view, 3 Smackdowns before the pay-per-view, I'm going to have the either Cruiserweight or United States titles be put on the line, depending on who has the majority of the wins coming into that week. And in doing so, one of these guys may be named a dual crown champion. And then the Smackdown right before the pay-per-view, they'll get their rematch for the championship. And win or lose, they'll be away from that title. And then whichever title was not defended up to that point will be defended at the pay-per-view. So that's how we're going to work that. Match 4. we're going to do the tag teams here, except it'll be a singles match with the managers, just like that. Elijah, Randy Orton, Kane, John Cena, Nitro, Jeff, yep. Confirm, yes. Elijah Burke gets the win over Randy Orton in the very first of the qualifying matches, and John Cena picks up the win over Kane in the second of the qualifying matches. Now, if you notice, I put a heel versus a heel and a face versus a face, and the reason why I did that is so that way, at the end, we will have a heel and a face that can fight each other legitimately, instead of me having to turn a face heel or a heel face, vice versa. Alright. And then we had Jeff Hardy picks up the win over Johnny Nitro. So he's 1-2 now against Johnny Nitro. We can't count the 6-man tag, so we're not going to count that. King Booker picks up the singles win over Hellraiser. Batista picks up the win over CM Punk to make them 1-1 in the rivalry. JBL and his nonsense. Skip right past the ECW pay-per-view, but let's just check in and see what they've done. Oh, they're not really... Oh, I forgot to re-sign Umaga. Well, that's okay. We'll just do, because he's not really an MVP. No. Well, I kind of blew the contract extension storyline a little bit, didn't I? That's that 5-match card, you know. There's not really a whole lot you can do with it. If I had the 6-match card, it wouldn't be so bad, but... Let's go ahead and give them both a year. Well, I pulled a WWE botch, a real-life one. Speaking of the real-life WWE, man, this past Monday Night Raw and Tuesday Night Smackdown, it was horrible, wasn't it? I mean, with opening segment, the only saving grace to that opening segment was the fact that Elias came off looking strong. Other than that, it was just horrid. I mean, just absolutely horrid. The Corbin, McIntyre, Lashley, Lio Rush all together thing, it's bad in my opinion. The only redeeming factor is Elias looked strong and handled the numbers game. But other than that, I mean, it was bad. I give that match like 2 out of 5 stars just because of how strong Elias looked. Other than that, there was no redeeming qualities. Then you had the Lucha House Party versus the Revival in a Lucha Party House Rules match, which I think is the dumbest, absolute dumbest thing ever. Absolute dumbest thing ever. And they just absolutely squashed the Revival. Like, there was no coming back from that pretty much. Just squashed them. So I don't really care for it. Dorado hits the Shooting Star Press for the pin. I give it a 1 star, 1 out of 5 stars. That was just, it was horrible. And then in the next segment, you had the Nia Jax Ronda Rousey promo, and Nia Jax just, I don't know what's up with her mic skills, but she can't do it. You know, she just it can't, just no, it can't. Alright, so that was painful. And then Natalya rushes out to help Rousey, even though Rousey doesn't even really need the help. And only to be taken out by the Riot Squad, in which Ronda Rousey responds by taking out all of the Riot Squad, who are just undercard jobbers at this point. There's nothing redeeming about them at all. Like, alright, so the main event this time around is going to be Johnny Nitro and CM Punk versus Jeff Hardy and Batista for the main event. Pay-per-view hype. Pay-per-view hype. Oh, we need a tag team, actually. King Booker. No, we'll make it like that, yeah. And it'll be this time Mr. Kennedy with King Booker in his corner, and Johnny Chaos with Hellraiser in his corner. And then it'll be the semifinals of John Cena versus, who was it that won? It was Randy Orton versus Elijah Burke. There we go. And then we'll have Rey Mysterio versus Edge. And Bobby Lashley versus Umaga. And that'll be our match card for this Friday night, leading into the #1 Contenders Tournament. Gotta make use of that 5-match card, you know. Oh, yeah, so, I digress. Yeah, the Riot Squad, they're jobbers at this point, and I give it a 1 out of 5 stars, honestly. Everyone in this segment was so bad that it made Ronda Rousey look professional, and she's still not even quite there. And then, like, the next match was AOP versus Rude and Chad Gable for the tag titles. And the AOP at this point are just a running joke. I mean, the whole thing during the match with, what's his name? Hold on, give me a second. Drake Maverick running off with Rude's rope and then peeing on it on the Titanatron, and they get the surprise win kind of off of that. The Authors of Pain were supposed to be a really big deal. You know, AOP is supposed to stand for Authors of Pain, not Authority on Piss. This whole Drake Maverick thing is just, I give it 2 stars just because they retain the championships, but other than that, it gets nothing from me. Then you got Ember Moon with Curtis Hawkins versus Alicia Fox with Jinder Mahal. Not really anything to say. Ember Moon wins, squash match, just a couple minutes. And as they're celebrating, No Way Jose, as in I'm not going to win, Jose comes out with his little conga line. Him and Jinder Mahal have a match. Jinder Mahal beats him pretty handedly. And Mahal wins via pinfall. Not a lot to say about it. Jose was a little resilient, but still lost the match like a boss. He's development talent, really. That match gets a 1-star rating. The Ember Moon match gets a 2-star rating just because Ember Moon picks up a win, and she's always exciting to see. Then you had Dean Ambrose turn to his, again, outdated BS heel tactics by being at the doctor and getting vaccinated because everybody are germs to him now, including Seth Rollins and the fans, so there was that. The one redeeming match on this whole card was Seth Rollins' open challenge, to which Dolph Ziggler answered. And that was a really good match. It was for the Intercontinental Championship. Dolph Ziggler loses, and Seth Rollins retains. I gave it 3.5 stars. It could have been more, but the fact that we've seen this match so many times, it just, it was a good match. They have good chemistry, but it's nothing we haven't seen for the last 6 months. So, and then you had the Bliss Forum with Bayley and Sasha Banks, which I give that overall 1 out of 5 stars because it was just nobody cared. Who cares really? I mean, I'm glad they're being used, but just really, who cares? And then you had the main event, which was Corbin versus Finn Balor, pin the Finn Balor, which is unfortunate to say, in which it was somewhat good, the back and forth, all the way up until Balor went to hit the coup de grace, and missed. And then Corbin announced that it was a handicap match. And then Drew McIntyre came out and he Claymore kicked him. It was over with within a minute. And then Bobby Lashley comes out and they just destroyed him the same way they did Elias. And that's how they ended it. And it was horrible. It was one of the worst rated Raws ever, probably in the history of Raws. I just can't believe the crap they're shoveling out. All right, so in the first of our championship or number one contender qualifying matches, Bobby Lashley picks up the win over Umaga, Rey Mysterio picks up the win over Edge, and Elijah Burke picks up the win over John Cena in their semifinal qualifier. Then Johnny Chaos picks up the singles win over Mr. Kennedy to make them 1-1. And Jeff Hardy and Batista pick up the win over the tag of Johnny Nitro and CM Punk. Continue into the next Raw here. Yeah, so that Raw, it was a total I give the whole show a rating of 1.5 out of 5 stars. It was god awful. God awful. The only two redeeming things of this whole entire Raw was how strong they made Elias look, handling the handicap stipulations throughout the match, and the Seth Rollins Dolph Ziggler Intercontinental title match, which we've still seen a million times. So all right. So Bobby Lashley picks up a win. We're going to push him with a press conference. Oh, a big success. That's good. Well, hold on. We've got a little email. Injury-free month. Woot woot. All right, so we're going to go straight to Smackdown. Yes, yes. All right, so for the main event, we're going to make it a 6-man tag. 6-man tag. Johnny Chaos, Hellraiser, and Batista versus King Booker, Mr. Kennedy, and CM Punk. And the reason why I'm flip-flopping in these matches and keeping them in between tag matches and so on and so forth is to keep the heat and the pop between them. You know what I'm saying? CM Punk and Batista are 1-1 right now. So to keep them in constant flux of tag team matches and things of that nature keeps the rivalry still going, keeps them still 1-1, keeps that leg up. And it's the same thing for the tag titles. They're 1-1 singles competition right now, with the last tag team victory coming at the pay-per-view. So that keeps that going a little bit longer up until here in the next week or so when we have the tag team championship rematch. Alright, so right here we're going to have a one-on-one with Johnny Nitro and Jeff Hardy, and the reasoning for this is because Jeff Hardy is on a 2-win streak, but only one of those wins was in a singles match with Johnny Nitro. So technically Jeff Hardy is 1-2 on Johnny Nitro. So they need to keep going because here in the next 2 or 3 weeks or so, they're going to be fighting for one of their championships, and whoever has the least amount of wins going into that at that period in time is the one that's going to put the title up. All right, then we're going to have a 1-on-2. Rey Mysterio won his match. I'm gonna have to go back and look. And Bobby Lashley, okay. So match 3, a 1-on-2, and it'll be Rey Mysterio and Bobby Lashley with the other semi-final winner, Elijah Burke, watching on. We'll say kayfabe at the commentary table, and we'll go that route with it. And it'll be Mysterio versus Lashley for the other semi-final. Personally, I'm hoping Rey Mysterio wins. because I kind of have other plans for Bobby Lashley, but we'll just see how it goes. And I will adapt accordingly. Match 2, John Cena versus Randy Orton. And Edge versus Umaga. Well, we'll put Randy Orton versus Umaga and John Cena versus Edge. Yeah. Then we'll do pay-per-view hype. Umaga gets the win over Randy Orton. John Cena picks up the win over Edge. Oh, Bobby Lashley gets the win. So it'll be Bobby Lashley versus Elijah Burke for #1 contendership of the championship. Jeff Hardy picks up the win over Johnny Nitro, so they're 2-2 now. And Batista and Hell-Raised Chaos pick up the win in the main event. Randy Orton is back to 100%. Alright, so we're going to start our #1 contendership rivalry. Hopefully we can. Between Bobby Lashley and nope, they're both 30. So we'll have to do a face turn for Bobby Lashley. We're going to do a website interview for Randy Orton, or no, for Umaga, since he beat Randy Orton. And we're going to start a program between Umaga and John Cena. 5 weeks on top. And let's see, Rey Mysterio is out. And I believe we'll start a program to see who the next #1 contender for the Cruiserweight Championship will be with Rey Mysterio and Edge. Let's see, who is that? Who is this for? I can't even remember now. Bobby Lashley, I think it was. Go ahead and go to Colorado Springs, Colorado, which is Bobby Lashley's hometown, and a perfect place to do a dirty clean turn. Bobby Lashley and Elijah Burke. And then we'll have Cena versus Umaga. Rey Mysterio versus Edge. And I do believe that this week we'll have the Tag Team Championship match. King Booker, Mr. Kennedy, Johnny Chaos, and Hellraiser. No, we won't do that. We'll do a pay-per-view hype, and then we'll do Jeff Hardy and Batista. There we go. Alright, so we're going to get a couple of good rivalries out of this, in my opinion. And I do believe this needs to be the main event, actually. It'll be King Booker. And where is he? Mr. Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, there he is. And Johnny Chaos, and Hellraiser. And then this one will be Jeff Hardy and Batista versus, not Elijah Burke, CM Punk, and Johnny Nitro. I almost couldn't remember for a second. And this has to be for the titles. And this promo will be bam, just like that. Alright, so this is really going to set up the upcoming weeks going into the pay-per-view. This is where things start boiling up. Unlike what they did over on Smackdown, which was admittedly better than the Raw, but not by a whole lot. I mean, that's like taking a pile of poo and saying, "Oh, well, this pile of poo is much better than this pile of poo because it doesn't stink as much, but they're still both piles of poo." You know what I'm saying? The only redeeming factors to SmackDown was the opening segment. Becky Lynch and Paige hit the ring, kicking off the show. And Lynch immediately addresses her desire to fight Rousey, and then calls out Charlotte Flair, and then they start talking smack back and forth to each other. And then most of the women's division comes out and says they could have done the same thing, which sets up a main event battle royal between the women's division to determine who gets added into the Charlotte Flair Becky Lynch Women's Championship match, which is, by the way, a tables, ladders, and chairs stipulation match. So it will be a TLC match, an actual TLC match. And it's going to be a triple threat. And then in the next segment, which, by the way, there was only 20 minutes of wrestling total on SmackDown. Out of 2 hours, there was about 20 minutes wrestling total. It was bad. So this match we're going to play. This match we're going to play because some stuff is going to happen in this match to keep the rivalry going until the pay-per-view, because obviously some things have to happen, and what happens in this match will begin the development of stories that are going to happen within the next couple of months down the line on the game. Alright, well, on SmackDown you had the Bars Open Challenge. The Usos versus the Bar was a non-title match. We're going to skip these. It was a non-title match, and it was pretty good. It was about what I would give a 3-star match. They had their nice back and forth, and so on and so forth. And the Usos ended it with a top rope splash that earned them a pinfall. But there were several reversals and several near finishes there towards the end that left a lot of people guessing. But we've seen it so many times. So many times. It's hard to really get wrapped up into it. And then AJ Styles comes out for the first time in 2 weeks since he's lost the championship. And he cut a great promo. AJ Styles is the man. He's the former champ that ran the camp. And anything with him and Daniel Bryan, storyline-wise, I'm sure is going to be good. Daniel Bryan is good no matter what he's doing. So is AJ Styles. And if they book this storyline correctly, then it can really blossom into something great. And I really think it has that potential, but they just have to bring that potential out. The segment was short, but it made Styles come off as a vengeful babyface, which is always good. It helps present it well starting off. And then the next segment after that, we've got Rusev versus Shinsuke Nakamura. But before it can ever even really start, Shinsuke Nakamura hits Rusev with a excuse me, I can hardly ever say his name. The name. Shinshasa. Oh, yeah. And drops him, and then continues the onslaught and leaves Rusev laying before the match can ever even begin. Now, I'm giving this like a 2 stars. And the reason that I'm giving it a 2 stars, I would like to go a little higher with it, but there wasn't a match. It was just a segment. So I'm only going to give it 2 stars. But I love to see Shinsuke Nakamura and Rusev utilized. I love to see those guys in the ring. To me, they're both crazy over, and no matter what the WWE tries to do to cool these guys off, they're always great. Their chemistry is great. And it brings back the United States title back to television. And to see both of these guys underutilized and improperly used in a proper rivalry, especially against each other with the chemistry. It's a good sight to see. I really enjoy the fact that they're about to start a program with these two. So that's really good in my opinion. All right, get the tag out. Bring my heel guy in. Start whooping on old Booker T. All right, so then after that, we had the segment where they're talking about Jeff Hardy's 20 years in the WWE, which is a little bit of an exaggeration because that entire 20 years was broken up. It wasn't an actual 20 years within the WWE, but hey, sticks and stones, right? So, he's talking about how grateful he is, thanking the fans and his family and everything, and then Samoa Joe comes out and interrupts, saying that Hardy's past isn't something to be celebrated because of all of the past mistakes he has made, hinting to all of the drug usage and alcohol usage and whatnot. So, he really comes off as really blunt, really angry, really just trying to really get under Jeff Hardy's skin. But the always cool and collected Jeff Hardy said in response, he's all about making moments, and he'd be more than willing to do it with Joe again there tonight. So it's needing, as many times as we've already seen these guys fight in the last couple of months, it's really showing off the mic skills of these guys, as well as adding a little personal touch to it, which this rivalry is going to need if it's going to have any kind of validity in the next coming weeks. And then we had Kofi Kingston versus The Miz in pretty much a throw-off match. And it had its share of exciting moments. Don't get me wrong, it was, in fact, a great match. For what it was a great match. So, I would give it 2.5 stars for the simple fact that Kofi Kingston didn't need the win at all, considering he's in the New Day faction and they're already superbly over. And The Miz has always been really a singles competitor, even though he tried to form the tag team with Shane McMahon or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But The Miz loses via pinfall in this match. And I really think that Miz needed the win more than the loss. It hurts Miz more than it does Kofi at this point. Because Kofi can keep throwing pancakes next week and be just fine. Whereas The Miz, he loses credibility more so to that. Did you see Booker just punch Kennedy there? It was a little weird. But, yeah, there's that. And then the next after that was the Orton Rey Mysterio segment. The Orton Rey Mysterio segment. And, I mean, it was pretty good, but we've seen that. We saw that 12 years ago. I mean, I can have that rivalry literally right now on this game. I could make Rey Mysterio versus Randy Orton if I wanted to, like, right now. So, that's something that we've seen for quite a while already. I mean, but it's Rey Mysterio's in the best shape of his life, and Randy Orton is at a level of sadistic that we have not seen in some time. So, I think, and given the fact that Rey Mysterio is that babyface, he can always pull the sympathy. He really knows how to pull the heartstrings on the fans. I think that it could really, really be something great if they work it right. But the fact that this rivalry is as old as it is already, they're really going to have to do some stuff in order to... They're really going to have to do some stuff in order to pull out the stops on this. So, we're going to see how it goes. Kick to the face. Oh, he's got me down. Then after that, we come to the women's battle royal, which I'm gonna stay kind of short on this. Naomi looked kind of strong in it, but she still got eliminated about halfway through. I think she was in the final four. Yeah, she was in the final four. But the ultimate winner of the match was Asuka, which I'm really glad to see the women's division utilized the way they were. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad to see all of these women in a match, and I'm glad to see Asuka pick up a win. But at the same time, I mean, it's going to be, she's only there probably to take the fall or to take the submission. So I really want to see her take home a win here, but it's probably not going to happen. So I don't know what that was. But I really hope that they're just not jobbing Asuka out at this point, you know. I really hope they're not jobbing Asuka out, but I have a feeling that that's kind of sort of what they're doing to keep the Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch thing protected for a little while longer, because that's what WWE has a tendency to do. My Smackdown, overall rating for Smackdown is 2 stars. It was better than Raw, but not much better, and the fact that there was only 20 minutes of wrestling, really, and one of those matches was a throwaway, you know, why does it even matter? And these two shows, as bad as they were, coming off of a bad Survivor Series and a bad follow-up to Survivor Series, is just not good. Not good at all. Now, I know what you're wondering, why did I just use Hellraiser and get this team disqualified? Well, as you know, a disqualification does not transfer the championships. And Hellraiser and Johnny Chaos is a face and Hellraiser is a heel. And Hellraiser pinned King Booker, didn't get the 3 count, got frustrated, hit him with the weapon just to get the easy pickup for the titles. And this is where the dissension between Johnny Chaos and Hellraiser begins. I'm not going to interfere in their match at the pay-per-view, so there will be one more tag championship match at the pay-per-view. And I'm not going to interfere with it. If Chaos and Hellraiser win, then their storyline as tag champs will go on a little bit longer, but there will be an eventual split between these two. And I don't know if it's going to come sooner rather than later, but it's definitely happening. Alright, so Edge beats Rey Mysterio. We'll say it was by dirty tactics, so that way we can begin their storyline. Elijah Burke picks up the win over Bobby Lashley by, let's say, kayfabe dirty tactics, which would explain his face turn. Umaga beats John Cena, and Jeff Hardy / Batista get the win over CM Punk and Johnny Nitro. So things on SmackDown are really starting to heat up. Alright, we only have 4 SmackDowns before the pay-per-view, so I'm going to skip right to the business. Main event. 1-on-1. Batista and CM Punk. Pay-per-view hype. Pay-per-view hype. 1-on-1. We're going to have Johnny Nitro versus Jeff Hardy, and this match right here will determine who fights for which championship will be defended next week. Then we're going to have King Booker and Hellraiser. King Booker and, where'd he go? And Hellraiser because King Booker wants him in a singles match for hitting him with a sledgehammer last week, which is completely understandable. That reminds me, I have to make 2 rivalries right fast. Or 3 rivalries, rather. Number 1 contender and Elijah Burke. Battle of the Titans, John Cena versus Umaga. And we'll do a GM kiss-up between Edge and Rey Mysterio. In kayfabe, we'll just say that Edge, after beating Rey Mysterio, says, Edge, after beating Rey Mysterio, says that he deserves to be the number 1 contender. And Rey Mysterio says, you cheated to beat me, so that's going to be the rivalry. Alright, so let's begin this. Batista versus CM Punk. We'll make it a tag with Elijah Burke and Bobby Lashley being in the match. And we'll do Edge and Rey Mysterio. And Randy Orton. Is Randy Orton not in a rivalry? He may not be, huh? And then we'll do I don't think Randy Orton and Kane are in a rivalry. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have one more rivalry. What is it? I don't remember. Oh, it's Jeff Hardy and Johnny Nitro. I'm so silly. No, I found that. John Cena and Umaga, that's what it is. And we're going to have Randy Orton join the fray. We're going to have him double team him for a week or 2, and then we're going to have Kane show up and give John Cena the save. And we'll add Kane and Randy Orton unofficially to the rivalry, just to make sure everybody on our roster gets used. I know Gregory Helms isn't, but I have special plans for him later on, so he will eventually. Don't feel bad about him. He's just on a vacation. Yes. Cena loses. Of course he does. That's good. Edge picks up yet another dirty win over Rey Mysterio. King Booker gets his vengeance on Hellraiser. Johnny Nitro picks up the win over Jeff Hardy. So next week it's a Cruiserweight Championship match. And CM Punk and Elijah Burke pick up the win over Batista and Bobby Lashley, giving them a little bit of momentum going in. And we're going to skip straight to Memphis, Tennessee, which is Hell Raised Chaos's hometown, so they'll be doing something big. Main event. We'll do a fatal 4-way this time. Batista, Elijah Burke, CM Punk, and Bobby Lashley. John Cena versus Umaga. I forgot I made that a handicap. 1 on 2. Randy Orton. And we're going to do Hellraiser and Johnny Chaos versus King Booker and Mr. Kennedy. But instead of it being a normal tag match, it's going to be a hardcore tornado tag match. It'll be non-title. We'll save that for the pay-per-view, and we'll make the next match for the pay-per-view bigger than just a hardcore. But this is what we're doing for now. So, pay-per-view, Edge, and Rey Mysterio. And it was, yeah, Jeff Hardy. Actually, that should probably be the main event, shouldn't it? Jeff Hardy. And we'll just make this a tag team. Yeah, just like that. And this will be, that'll stay what it is, but this will be promotion for the Cruiserweight Championship. Yes, just like that. CM Punk and Elijah Burke win again. That's good. Edge picks up yet another victory against Rey Mysterio. He's not doing so hot. King Booker and Mr. Kennedy pick up a win in the Hardcore Tornado Tag match. Umaga and Randy Orton get another win. And Johnny Nitro is now a dual crown champion, ladies and gentlemen. Both the United States and Tag Team title, or United States and Cruiserweight Championships. He's got them both. Alright, so we're going to go straight to this Smackdown. Main event will be a fatal four-way. No, let's make it one more tag team with CM Punk and Elijah Burke and Batista and Bobby Lashley. We'll make it one more tag team. We'll do a pay-per-view hype. Johnny Nitro versus Jeff Hardy. And we'll put him with Rey Mysterio, which I think he's already with. And we'll do that. And then we'll do, and this time Kane will come in and save him. Randy Orton and Umaga. And Kane. Yes, just like this, okay? Pay-per-view hype. A lot of tag teams, huh? And then we'll do King Booker and Mr. Kennedy and Hellraiser and Johnny Chaos. And I'm trying to remember who I'm missing. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And we'll put Gregory Helms in versus Kane, just so nobody suspects that Kane will be the one to show up to help John Cena. Oh, Gregory Helms picks up the win over Kane. Look at that. They pick up the win. That's good. They needed that. Oh, John Cena and Kane lose to Randy Orton and Umaga. Jeff Hardy and Mysterio lose to Nitro and Edge. CM Punk and Elijah pick up yet another win. Wow, the heels are really taking it to the faces this time around, aren't they? Alright, we are 1 week away from the Great American Bash pay-per-view. Let's see who our Power 15 is right fast. Elijah Burke, Batista. Okay, Batista is in there. That's good. We just need to give him maybe a small push, a press conference or something like that. Alright, so we're looking good going into the pay-per-view. Our rivalries are holding strong. Alright, let's run some pay-per-view promos. Batista. And I'm trying to decide if it should be Johnny Nitro or if it should be CM Punk. I'm going to go with CM Punk because he's the world champion, and that's our guy, right? World champion. Alright, we're going to give press conference Batista a little bump. Little bump there, yep. And we're going to give Jeff Hardy a little bump because he's been on a losing streak. A website interview for old Jeff. Alright. The last Smackdown before the pay-per-view. Alright, on this match card, we're going to have a rematch for the Cruiserweight Championship with Jeff Hardy and Johnny Nitro. And we're also going to showcase one-on-ones, but I think we're going to put Edge and Rey Mysterio in a six-man tag with our tag team division, just so maybe we can get Rey Mysterio a win going into this pay-per-view, because I think he's played the sympathetic losing face long enough. So, one-on-one, CM Punk versus Batista. Pay-per-view hype. This is going to be for the Cruiserweight Championship. Nope, champion comes out second. Jeff Hardy, Johnny Nitro. Six-man elimination tornado tag, just to spice it up a little bit. And Edge, Rey Mysterio, Hellraiser. Bam. Excuse me. Then we've got the tag team of John Cena and Kane versus Randy Orton and Umaga. Let's see who we haven't utilized. Oh. Elijah Burke and Bobby Lashley. That's who it is. Yeah, okay.